In college, I ghosted the queen bee of trust fund kids. 3 years later, a pipe burst in my apartment, and I ended up crashing at my buddy's place in the middle of the night. Groping my way into the guest room, I somehow climbed into her bed. A smirk played on her lips. What's this? Looking to rekindle an old flame. My heart hammered against my ribs. I tried to bolt, but she grabbed my arm. And where do you think you're going? In my dream, she was warm and soft in my arms. My pulse was racing, and just as things were about to get interesting, a searing pain shot through my ear. My eyes flew open, and I was staring straight into the almond-shaped eyes that had haunted my dreams. The perfect lips beneath them parted. Leo Flynn, it's been a while. I never figured you'd resort to this kind of move to see me again, trying to rekindle an old flame. I yelped, snatching my ear back and scrambling off the bed. My face a mess of red and white. Chloe Vance, my ex-girlfriend. How in the hell was I in bed with her? Her long hair was a dark cascade over her shoulders, and she was wearing a silk slip so thin it was practically transparent, leaving nothing about her incredible figure to the imagination. I stammered. You? What are you doing here? I was about to ask you the same thing. In my guilt-ridden panic, my only instinct was to run. But she tightened her grip. What? You show up in my bed and think you can just leave? I never would have guessed that a burst pipe in my apartment would lead me, in the dead of night, to sneak into my best friend's place only to end up in my ex-girlfriend's bed. The commotion woke up the owner of the house. Chris, clad in plaid pajama pants, padded into the room, his voice preceding him. Chloe, what's all the shouting about? It's the middle of the night. Then he saw me. His eyes went wide. Dude, how are you here? I managed a weak smile. Pipe burst at my place. Had to find shelter. My buddy pulled me aside, waggling his eyebrows. She's my cousin. You two just spent the night together. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. She was the last person on earth I ever wanted to see again. The girl I had once given my entire heart to, only to find out we were never meant to be. Back in college, she was our campus's untouchable ice queen. I saw her at a club fair and fell for her instantly. The rumor was she was from an obscenely wealthy family and looked down on everyone. Then one day, she sprained her ankle in the locker room after a workout. She came limping out, her face pale and beaded with sweat from the pain. I happened to be walking by and, without a second thought, scooped her up and carried her to the student health center. After that, we became friends. I discovered that beneath the chilly exterior, she was actually pretty warm and incredibly forgetful, constantly misplacing things. She would text me all the time, asking me to grab this for her or pick up that. She said I was the most considerate guy in the world, that I remembered all her favorite things and was great at cheering her up. She once teased me that I must have a girlfriend to be so experienced. I just laughed and said, "Nope, you're the first." Her eyes sparkled, and she quietly took my hand. The more time I spent with her, the more I understood. She wasn't just a campus legend because she was beautiful. She was the pinnacle of the elite socialite circle. They had their own world, a world completely separate from mine. But she told me she hated the phoniness of her crowd, that I was the most real person she knew. That made me happy. I introduced her to my world, a more down-to-earth, normal life. When I got my research grant from my professor, I'd take her out for a huge meal at a hole-in-the-wall place we loved. Sometimes she'd offer to pay, but I'd never let her. "This one's on me," I'd say. "It's a guy's job." I might not have been able to give her a life of luxury, but I gave her everything I had. For a while, we were inseparable, living in a perfect little bubble. But it was just an ordinary relationship, the kind that can't withstand the slightest storm. One day, a guy from the business school, Julian Roth, cornered me. "I'm her fiancé," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Stay away from Chloe." I stared at him, stunned. Chloe never told me she had a fiancé. It's an understanding between our families. It's been settled for years. You don't have a shot at being her boyfriend. He looked me up and down with disdain. What can you possibly offer her? A burden. I didn't believe him. We argued. He just arched a brow, arrogant. "Let me show you her real life." He had me change into some nicer clothes he brought, a disguise of sorts, and drove me to a sprawling estate in the Hamptons. Inside a massive villa, a lavish party was underway, and there she was. Her makeup was flawless, her hair swept into an elegant updo, and she wore a custom-made evening gown. She moved through the gala with a graceful confidence, the perfect hostess, charming everyone effortlessly. It was true, we weren't from the same world. "You see," Julian said, his voice a low sneer in my ear. She's a queen on her throne. And you? You're just an ant on the ground. She doesn't need a guy who takes her to food trucks. She needs an equal, someone who can help build an empire. I looked down at my worn sneakers and jeans, completely out of place. I squared my shoulders. But she likes me for who I am. Julian burst out laughing. There are plenty of guys like you. You don't believe me? Take a look at her phone sometime. He leaned in. Her contacts are sorted into groups. We're in one group. You and a few others are in another. The next day, I met up with Chloe. While she was in the restroom, I caved and checked her phone. He was right. My contact name wasn't my name. It was a code name, initials, and a number. And there were 7 or 8 other contacts just like it, all filed away in the same group. When she came back, I asked her directly, "Do you ever get bored with me?" She blinked, a playful glint in her eye. "Never. I love being with you. You let me relax, be myself. I don't have to keep up that perfect facade. Are there others like me?" She tilted her head, thinking, "A few, I guess." My heart sank. "So, is there a place for me in your future?" "Of course. You can come work with me at my family's company. There's a trendy term for it now. Trophy husband. What do you think?" She winked, as if it were just a little joke. My stomach dropped to the floor. That wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to be her equal. Finally, one day, we had just finished watching a movie. The ending was so tragic it left me feeling hollow, and a sudden clarity washed over me. "We should break up." She looked at me, shocked. Then her heiress temper flared. "Fine, break up, but don't you dare come crawling back." The next time she texted me, I blocked her number, just like that. 3 years went by without a word. I heard she'd moved overseas. Chris's jaw was practically on the floor. "Dude, you and my cousin have that kind of history? No wonder she was so miserable for a while back then. She wouldn't talk to anyone. Just locked herself in her room for weeks. I couldn't imagine her being heartbroken over me. I was just one of the 7 or 8 code names in her phone, right? Getting dumped sucks for anyone." I muttered. "It's not that weird." I had work the next morning. Plus I had to call a plumber. I left at the crack of dawn, wanting to avoid any more contact with her. I'm a project lead at a tech firm now, and today we had a major kickoff meeting with a huge corporate client. My team and I rushed over to their headquarters, and the person who greeted us was none other than Chloe Vance. My scalp prickled, but there was no escape. "This project has a tight deadline and a heavy workload," she announced, her voice all business. "The project team will need to work late often, and many of the business requirements will need to be confirmed with me in person." I nodded stiffly. "We won the bid. We'll give it our all." She pointed a pen at me. "Leo, please come to my office. Let's go over the details." I followed her into a spacious office, decorated in a surprisingly stark, minimalist style that didn't seem to fit her. But the tailored power suit she wore fit her perfectly, accentuating her every move as she walked. I tried to focus. She started by discussing the project, and I answered each of her questions professionally. Then, out of nowhere, she asked, "The project will require some late nights. Will your girlfriend mind?" I shook my head. Then, for some reason I couldn't explain, I shot back, "You'll be working late with us, right? Will your boyfriend mind?" She answered slowly, deliberately, "Oh, my boyfriend. He's got quite a temper. Very demanding." I figured she was talking about Julian. A sour taste filled my mouth. "Well, in that case, you probably shouldn't stay too late with us. I can just give you a progress report in the morning." She just stared at me for a long moment, then stood up and sat down in the chair right next to mine. I instinctively shifted away from her. She reached out and grabbed the sleeve of my jacket. "Why did you block me? We can't be lovers, so we can't even be friends." A bitter feeling rose in my chest. Did she really think I had a choice? She leaned closer, her breath a warm, fragrant cloud on my cheek. "Leo, I..." Before she could finish, a knock echoed on the door, and in walked Julian Roth. "Chloe, darling, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you had company." He turned and his eyes landed on me. He froze for a second. Well, if it isn't our old campus hero, Leo Flynn. Long time no see. I hear you're a project lead now." Seeing him brought the whole humiliating memory rushing back. My stomach churned with acid. He walked over, sliding an arm around Chloe's waist. "What are you in the mood for tonight?" "I've already made reservations." He then looked back at me. "Leo, care to join us?" I shot to my feet. "Sorry, I have plans. My girlfriend already booked a table for us." Excuse me. Chloe looked completely stunned. As I fled under Julian's mocking gaze, the heart I thought had turned to ice shattered all over again. The girlfriend I mentioned was a college classmate, Sienna Quinn. She'd pursued me relentlessly back in school, but I'd turned her down flat. Recently, my firm worked on a project with her family's company, and I spent 3 months on site. Acting as the client, she was always organizing team dinners, and every single time, she'd try to get me drunk. The way she looked at me was like a predator sizing up its prey. I'd always tried to keep my distance, but in that moment, she was the only shield I could think of. I never imagined the project would be with the Vance Corporation, with Chloe now at the helm. I did my best to avoid her. I never went to her office unless summoned, and even then, I'd bring a colleague with me to report on our progress. I saw Julian in her office several times. He acted like he owned the place. Sometimes Chloe would be in a meeting with us, and Julian would just sit there listening in, occasionally adding his own 2 cents. The office gossip was that they were a package deal, the company's power couple. One night, everyone else on my team had gone home. I was alone, wrestling with a stubborn piece of code that just wouldn't debug. I was so engrossed I didn't hear the footsteps behind me. A cup of coffee appeared beside my keyboard. I turned, startled, and my hand jerked, sending the entire cup of hot coffee spilling down the front of Chloe's blouse. I grabbed a fistful of napkins and started dabbing at the stain, but a few seconds in, I realized my mistake. Her blouse was thin silk, and the feeling beneath my hand was soft and warm. I snatched my hand back and stood there stiffly, like a kid waiting to be scolded.
Chloe sighed.
Go downstairs and buy me a new outfit. I need to change. I practically flew down the stairs. There was a 24-hour retail store on the ground floor. I bought her a blouse and a pair of pants. After a moment's hesitation, I grabbed a new bra and underwear set too. While I was cleaning up the spill, I'd seen the coffee had soaked straight through. When I handed her the bag, she suddenly moved closer, trapping me against the desk. You still remember my size? Haven't you noticed I've changed a little over the years? I turned my head, my heart hammering. I couldn't look at her. You've, maintained yourself well. I got you a size up in the blouse, just in case. When she came out of her private bathroom, she looked transformed. For a second, I saw the college girl who'd go with me to eat at food trucks. She opened her mouth to say something, but my phone buzzed with a frantic call. I answered it. Okay. I'm on my way. I held up my phone for her to see and grabbed my bag. Family emergency. Gotta go. Bye. The call was from my downstairs neighbor. The plumber hadn't fixed my pipe properly. It was leaking again, this time into his ceiling. I rushed home to shut off the main water valve. It looked like the handyman was right. If it happened again, the whole system would need to be replaced. I had no choice but to call my buddy, Chris, again. Yeah. Come on over, he said. I'm out of town on business all week anyway. I asked tentatively. Your cousin's not there, is she? Nah, she left ages ago. Don't worry. She doesn't even know the new code for the door. Relieved, I worked late again and headed to Chris's place. Scarred by my last experience, I made a beeline for the master bedroom this time. I was so exhausted I fell asleep the moment my head hit the pillow. But in the middle of the night, a noise beside me woke me up. I opened my eyes in a state of total panic and saw Chloe's face again. This time, she had me pinned to the bed. Her long hair brushed against my cheek, the soft touch making my entire body go rigid. We need to talk. My throat was dry. I didn't dare move. How did you get the keypad code? A slight smile touched her lips. I'm the one who sent Chris on that business trip, and I had the lock changed. Get off me. Not until you agree to have a real conversation. Get off. No. Just as I was about to lose it, she finally rolled off. It took me a minute to compose myself before I could climb out of bed. We sat across from each other in the living room, each with a mug of coffee. She ran a hand through her hair, looking perfectly at ease, which only highlighted my own discomfort. A knot of frustration tightened in my chest. If you want to play games, can you please find someone else? I'm not the right guy. Who says you're not the right guy? Back in college, no one was more right. I raked a hand through my own hair, exasperated. We broke up, remember? I don't. You broke up with me unilaterally. I never agreed to it. I let out a harsh laugh. You're unbelievable. A true princess. You have a fiancé, so why are you still messing with me? Are you planning on collecting boy toys now? Like some ancient empress? Boy toys. Chloe's voice turned sharp with anger. Is that how you see yourself? You really know how to put yourself down. My voice rose to match hers. What else am I supposed to think? I'm just one of the many guys in your collection. You really think that's who I am? What else am I supposed to think? I'm the guy who doesn't even get a real name in your phone, just a code name. The argument escalated until, in the middle of the night, I stormed out and checked into a nearby hotel. For days, I gave her the cold shoulder. Outside of work, I refused to engage in any more of her games. Then, Sienna Quinn called me unexpectedly. She said there was an issue with the old project we worked on and needed me to come take a look. Worried, I dropped what I was doing and rushed over to her company. It turned out she was at a business dinner and told me to meet her in the private dining room. When I arrived, the room was full of clients and executives, all schmoozing and making deals. And Chloe was there, in front of everyone. Sienna pulled me down onto the sofa next to her. Her arm draped casually over my shoulders. She announced we needed to discuss something urgent and told everyone else to carry on. Chloe's eyes were locked on me, her expression unreadable. A man was trying to offer her a toast, but she ignored him completely, her attention fixed on me and Sienna. I kept my eyes glued to my laptop screen as Sienna and I started discussing the project. She leaned in closer and closer, her left arm wrapping around me to rest on the back of the sofa. From Chloe's perspective, it must have looked like she was holding me. We had been talking for maybe 10 minutes when my laptop was suddenly snatched from my hands. Chloe stood before us, holding my computer, her face a thundercloud. This is a dinner party. If you have work to discuss, do it back at the office. Sienna smirked provocatively. Chloe, I believe I'm the host tonight. It's not really your place to dictate the rules. Is this how you treat your guests? By ignoring all of them. Sienna was unfazed. The project Leo and I are discussing is critical. We're talking about a deal worth at least $3 million. He's my VIP. $3 million. Chloe scoffed. Our corporation has Leo managing a $10 million project. Is $3 million really something to brag about? Seeing a full-blown fight about to erupt, I quickly intervened. I grabbed an empty decanter from the table, filled it to the brim with whiskey, at least half a pint, and stood up. My apologies for intruding tonight. It was my mistake. However, Ms. Vance, Ms. Quinn did invite me here first. If she's offended you in any way, I'll take the blame for her. With that, I tipped my head back and down the burning liquor. The heat rushed to my head. Chloe's face went cold as ice. Leo Flynn, what do you think you're doing? You think you can speak for Sienna Quinn? I wrapped an arm around Sienna's waist. Why not? She's my girlfriend, and I love her. Sienna smiled triumphantly and hugged me back. Sorry, Chloe. My boyfriend's just a little protective. Chloe swayed on her feet, her body trembling. I turned down Sienna's offer to drive me home and walked alone through the city night. The moonlight draped over me, as hazy as the fog in my mind. The half pint of whiskey was way past my limit. I ended up hunched over a trash can on the sidewalk, vomiting my guts out. Someone knelt in front of me and handed me a bottle of water. I looked up, my vision swimming, and saw the double image of Chloe. What do you want? I slurred. You know I have a girlfriend. She snorted. Just wanted to see how long you could keep up the act. I laughed bitterly. Well, now you see. I'm just a working stiff trying to get by. I can't compare to you rich people. Her next words hit me like a punch. No, you can't. Not just in terms of money, but in the depths of your self-pity and cowardice. It felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I was wrong about you, she continued, her voice laced with disappointment. I thought you were above all this status and money crap, but it turns out you're so crushed by it you can't even see people for who they really are. Her words made me break out in a cold sweat. A defensive, drunken rage boiled up inside me. At least I'm not a spoiled rich girl who plays with people's hearts. The words were cruel and I knew it. It was more than she could take. She lunged forward and crushed her lips against mine. It was like a lightning strike. We poured all our pent-up frustration and anger into that kiss. It started as a battle, a clash of teeth and will, then slowly softened into something tender and desperate. We kissed all the way from the street to her car, from the car to the house, and finally onto the bed, as if a ritual left unfinished 3 years ago was finally being completed. When I woke up, I was in the master bedroom of Chris's apartment, wearing a clean set of clothes. The smell of cooking drifted from the kitchen. I walked to the doorway and saw her, frantically trying to make breakfast. When she saw I was awake, she handed me a glass of broth. Hangover cure. It'll help with the headache. I drank it obediently. On the stove, a pot of oatmeal was simmering. In her haste, she burned her hand and quickly touched it to her earlobe to cool it down. In that moment, Chloe Vance wasn't a corporate queen. She was just a normal woman, trying to cook a meal for me. Dressed in simple loungewear, she was clearly out of her element, checking a recipe on her phone as she went. I glanced at the trash can and saw several blackened, failed attempts at fried eggs. "Come on, eat up," she said. "I worked on this all morning. Don't let it go to waste." I took a bite of the egg she'd plated for me. It was slightly burnt, but as I chewed, my eyes started to sting. Just then, her phone rang. Instantly, she transformed back into the serious CEO. After taking the call, she leaned over and gave me a quick peck on the cheek. "Be good. Something came up at the office. I have to go." The door clicked shut behind her. Faintly, through the door, I heard her say into the phone, "Julian." And just like that, the sunshine in my heart vanished, replaced by darkness. After breakfast, I went back to the office, only to walk into the biggest news of the day. Julian Roth and Chloe Vance were getting engaged next month. My hands were shaking. Who was it that said she wanted to start over with me? I heard that as an engagement gift, their two families had brokered a nearly $50 billion joint venture, a number that astronomical would boost the Vance Corporation's revenue by over 10% this year alone. If I were in her shoes, I'd choose Julian too. I stared at the lines of code on my screen, my mind a complete mess. When would I ever be able to offer her billions in support? When could I ever stand tall and pursue my goddess without feeling like an imposter? I was cornered by Julian in the men's room. "I heard," he began, a smug look on his face, "that Chloe and Sienna were fighting over you, and you chose Sienna?" I tried to walk past him. "None of your business." Julian didn't seem to care about my attitude. "You made the right choice. Sure, in our world, Sienna's family is at the bottom of the food chain, but for a regular guy like you, she's still out of your league. As for Chloe, well, she belongs with someone like me, someone from her world. My advice? Pack your bags and get out of here." My fists clenched. "Whether I stay or go is none of your damn business. You don't get to make decisions about this project." Julian raised an eyebrow. "Oh really? I believe they've already emailed you about your transfer," he added slowly and cruelly. "And as for why Chloe is still chasing you, it's because you were the one who broke up with her. She's a proud woman. The breakup should have been her call. The only way for her to get her revenge is to win you back, and then dump you. That's the ultimate payback." I didn't want to hear another word. I went back to my desk and checked my inbox. Sure enough, there was an email from HR. Subject: Project Reassignment. Due to a client complaint regarding Leo Flynn, the role of project lead will be reassigned. Mr. Flynn is to report to his new project assignment immediately. A client complaint? I'd done nothing but excellent work here. I asked my team members, but they all avoided my eyes. Finally, one of them pulled me aside and whispered, "It was Julian Roth. He can't stand you, so he filed a formal complaint. I heard he also threw a $2 million contract at our company to sweeten the deal." I couldn't believe how devious he was. He'd manipulated me in college, and now he was sabotaging my career. As I was packing my things, I overheard other employees gossiping about how both corporations would soon make the official announcement about the engagement. I let out a cold, bitter laugh. The woman who had sworn her love for me just last night was a complete hypocrite. The pain was deeper this time than it was in college. Back then, I was the one who cut the cord. This time, I was the one being played for a fool. My heart felt like a block of ice. Julian had been right about one thing. This was a game for the rich, and ordinary people like me couldn't afford to play. I didn't go to the new project. Instead, I went home and slept for 3 days straight. I don't know what sliver of hope I was clinging to, but my phone remained silent. Not a single message from Chloe. The person who texted me the most was Sienna. Most of the gossip I heard came from her. The financial news sites were already buzzing with rumors that the $50 billion deal was the perfect wedding gift for the corporate merger. The articles were accompanied by a photo of Chloe and Julian, arm in arm at some gala, looking like the perfect couple. There were even gossip columns dedicated to Chloe's private life. They painted her as a queen, always flanked by 1 or 2 handsome men. The photos were always taken from angles that suggested intimacy. The media loves a good love triangle. And with the engagement looming, tabloids were inventing dramatic stories about Chloe and the men in her orbit. The funny thing was, I wasn't in any of them. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I called her. The call was immediately declined. In that instant, I understood the smirk on Julian's face. I blocked her number again. The day before I was supposed to leave for the new assignment, Chris showed up at my door. What the hell is wrong with you? My cousin can't get a hold of you. My face was a grim mask. Why would she want to? So I can send her an engagement gift. Chris looked exasperated. I don't know what's going on between you two, but I do know that 3 years ago, she almost tried to sneak back into the country for you. Sneak back into the country? This was news to me. My family has huge expectations for her. The weight on her shoulders is immense. After graduation, they wanted to send her abroad for her master's, but she refused to go. They ended up practically forcing her onto the plane. I found out later they'd confiscated her passport. She actually tried to find a way to get back illegally. All for some guy. I just found out that guy was you. How was that possible? But I'd already broken up with her by then. What breakup? You ghosted my cousin out of nowhere. She had no idea what she did wrong. The news from Chris left me reeling. Was I really that important to her? I laughed bitterly. Even if she had loved me then, she was about to marry Julian now. What's the point of talking about this now? We're from two different worlds. Besides, I wasn't her only option, was I? Chris looked at me like I was a lost cause. Do you think she'd defy her entire family for just any option? She fought them 3 years ago, and she's fighting them again now. For you. I sat at the airport gate in a daze, my mind replaying the events of the last few weeks. My heart felt like it was bleeding. A news alert popped up on my phone. Vance Corporation stock plummets amid rumors of trouble with the $50 billion megadeal. I swiped it away. The next alert would probably be about the official engagement, and the stock would soar again. This stuff was just cocktail party chatter for most people. Not something a regular guy like me should worry about. The boarding call echoed through the terminal. I picked up my single carry-on and started walking toward the gate. Leo Flynn, you take one more step and I swear to God. A furious shout from behind me stopped me in my tracks. Chloe was sprinting toward me from the security checkpoint. Her hair was a mess, and she'd kicked off her high heels somewhere along the way. She was running barefoot across the cold airport floor, straight for me. I caught her as she crashed into my arms. My first instinct to check her bare feet for cuts. I lifted her feet into my lap, gently wiping away the grime. She was panting, struggling to speak. You idiot. Leo Flynn, where do you think you're going? You're trying to leave me again. You broke my heart once. You want to do it again. You're so cruel. No. Aren't you and Julian getting engaged? And what about the $50 billion deal? A sharp rap on my head was my answer. Do you really think I'm the kind of person who would sell myself for money? $50 billion? I can earn that back in 3 years. I have that power now. I don't need a marriage alliance to secure my future. Did you have so little faith in me? Leaving without a word like this. What's the difference between you and a deadbeat? I was wrong. The moment she ran toward me, I knew I was wrong. No matter how much I doubted her, no matter the gap in our status, she came for me. I canceled everything today just to find you, she said, her voice trembling. I lost you once 3 years ago. I'm not making that same mistake again. My eyes burned with tears. We went home together. On the way, her phone rang nonstop. I could hear her dealing with the fallout. Yes, I am not marrying into the Roth family. I promise this won't hurt the corporation's interests. I have a boyfriend. I will be getting engaged, but not to Julian. The stock price will recover. I have other plans. My own phone buzzed. It was an email from my company, rescinding the previous transfer order and urging me to return to the Vance Corporation project immediately. A text from my subordinate followed. Boss, you're a legend. You should have seen Chloe in here. She went full beast mode. Told the board that if they replaced you on this project, she'd drop us as a supplier. I turned to look at the woman beside me, furiously tapping away on her phone, and my heart swelled. This time, she took me to her own home. It was a condo she'd bought after returning to the States. I walked in and froze. The entire living room wall was covered in photos of us. Most were from college, but some were more recent, taken over the last 3 years. She saw me staring at the photo wall and blushed. I had the old ones, the new ones. I hired someone to take them discreetly for 3 years while I was overseas. Looking at these was how I got by. My heart felt like it was going to burst. I pulled her into my arms. What did I ever do to deserve this? I'm not worthy of you. She pouted. Whether you're worthy or not is for me to decide. And for the record, I think you're 1,000 times better than Julian Roth. I sighed. But isn't he your fiancé? She shook her head vigorously. He's the fiancé my family wants for me. As the heir, It's hard to escape those expectations. 3 years ago, I might not have had a choice. But I do now. 3 years ago, you blocked me and my parents shipped me off. They're incredibly controlling, and their expectations are impossibly high. They told me my responsibility was to our thousands of employees, not to my own love life. Hearing this weighed heavily on me. My life was so much simpler. The moment I heard you say you had a girlfriend, I had someone look into it. I know Sienna has a crush on you, but for her, you're just a conquest. The second she won you, she would have dropped you without a second thought. As for Julian, the Roth family is a business partner. I needed a male companion for events. A shield. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement. He gets business with my family and I get a buffer. You could call it a business alliance, I guess. It's what our marriage would have been like anyway. A partnership, not a real marriage. My heart ached for her. I wanted to slap myself. You have no idea how happy I was when you climbed into my bed that night, she said softly. For 3 years, I couldn't understand why you broke up with me. I replayed everything, thinking maybe my temper was too bad. Maybe I was too bossy. But those 4 years in college were the happiest of my life. You spoiled me, loved me, and gave me more respect than anyone. Why would I ever give that up? I've already dedicated my life to the Vance Corporation. Can't I at least fight for my own love? A lump formed in my throat. What did you mean? About the trophy husband thing? Ha! That's what you've been stuck on. It was a joke, Leo. From the outside, I guess if we got married, that's what people would call you. But I don't care what other people think. In my heart, you've always been my equal. So, are you still willing to take back that demanding, short-tempered girl who made you feel so insecure? It was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. One more question. Why was my name in your phone a code name? She pulled out her phone. My contact was still there. LF1. My parents are extremely strict. They were terrified I'd fall in with the wrong crowd. That's why I never made a big deal about us dating on campus. I hid your name in my contacts so they wouldn't find you and cause trouble. And the other coded names? The same. They're my closest friends. They're not from the socialite world. They're real people who genuinely care about me. This one, she pointed, is my executive assistant now. And this one is my VP. They're professionals I've known since I was a kid. People from outside that circle. My relationships with them are the strongest. The ones I can trust when you strip away my family name and money. And you were always number one. Leo, 3 years have passed. We've both grown up. Maybe the immaturity, the impulsive decisions, the insecurities. Maybe they're all just necessary life lessons. After all this time, I know what's in my heart. The question is, do you know what's in yours? All my doubts vanished, replaced by a fresh wave of shame. Do you really love me? Of course I do. I loved you 3 years ago, and I love you even more now. It was what I had longed to hear for our entire time in college. I had been a coward. I had been insecure. Chloe's halo of wealth and status had always blinded me. Like she said, I had only seen her title, her social position, and had completely overlooked the person underneath. Deep down, you're just a girl who starved for affection, I said, finally understanding. And that's the one thing I can give you. I may not have a lot of money, but I will spend my life giving you the best of everything I have. People say material wealth doesn't guarantee happiness. I finally understood what I had to offer her. From now on, I won't let my insecurity get in the way. I'm willing to be the man standing behind you. If people want to call me a trophy husband, let them. Because I'm the one who's there to pick up the pieces when you're being your forgetful self. I'm the one you can let your guard down with. The one who sees you when you take off your armor. All the suspicion and misunderstandings had finally come full circle. Our immaturity and weakness had allowed others to drive a wedge between us. We had both forgotten why we fell for each other in the first place. I was never a social climber, and she never cared about status. We came together because of a genuine connection. I could support myself. Even if Chloe lost her family's empire, I could take care of her. Life is too short to get tangled up in external factors. We should live for every moment. Chloe's eyes welled up with tears. She melted into my arms. My chest feels so tight, she whispered. Like there's a stone sitting on it. Can you just hold me? My heart began to pound. A frantic, happy rhythm. When it came to her, I would never have any resistance.